All right. So for the first one, raise your hand if you got A for your answer. Which no one should have because we already saw it wasn't right. How many people got B? Yeah, B ended up being the correct answer. Reason is when I plug it in, my Y I know right here is -5. And my X coordinate is -1. And so when I write my equation out like this, my first one, 3 times -1 ends up being -3. So this is this equation right here. So -3 minus 2 ends up equaling -5. So does -5 equal -5? Yeah. And so make sure if it works for the first one, you've got to try the second one. It has to work for both. If it only works for one, then you know it can't be the answer. So for like the second one right here, I have 3x, and that's my x coordinate, minus 5y equals 22. So when you write this out in your calculator, what do you end up getting? You end up getting 22. Does 22 equal 22? So we know because they both make sense, I know it's my answer. Does anyone not understand the plug it in method? Anyone? No? Because this is like the easiest way. You totally forget. And I was getting ACT practice questions. Like how many people are taking SAT, ACT, PSAT, any of those tests? This unit is on your SAT and PSAT. So if you totally forget how to do this, which we're learning how to actually do it today, you can always take your answer choices and plug them in and figure out which one works. Who got the answer to the second one? Jalen? B. It did end up being B. So when I plug in 3 for X and -2 in for Y, for both of these, they do end up being true. Who got both of them? Raise your hand. Does everyone understand what I'm talking about when I say plug it in, plug it in? Cool. All right, so we're going to get started with today's lesson. And so we're starting with these notes right here, so that little piece of paper. And color coding would be a good idea today because we're doing substitution. So we learned system of equations through graphing. And so today we're going over substitution. So Mika, if I said I'm going to have a substitute come in, what does that mean? The substitute's coming here tomorrow. Like they're going to replace me, right? So if there's a substitute coming in and taking my place, they're replacing me. What if I said there's a substitute, if you're getting substituted in your football game, Christopher, what does that mean? You're being taken out and what's going to happen? Someone else is going in for you, right? And it's going to be the same talent usually, right? So if Christopher's getting taken out, it's going to be probably the same talent or the same position that's going in and taking his place, right? They're not going to put somebody who's way worse in his position or probably wouldn't work out. So today we're learning substitution, and it's basically that. You're replacing something with something else. And so the first thing you need to do is solve an equation so a variable by itself. It actually doesn't matter this time if it's x or y. So do you guys see for the second equation how y is already solved by itself? I want you to, if you're using the color pen, circle that in one color. So first, the one equation that's already where a variable solved by itself, I'm going to circle that equation in a certain color. Then all I'm doing is I'm taking the equation before. So see how this equation is x plus 2y equals 8? I'm rewriting that equation like this. X plus 2y equals 8. And you see how they give me what y equals? They see how it says y equals 2x minus 1? Does everyone see that? So they're substituting it in. They're saying, okay, well, y here equals 2x minus 1. So instead of writing y the next time, I'm going to rewrite this equation. But instead of y, I'm going to put y substitute. Y does equal 2x minus 1. So all I did right here is I substituted in for y. And we could have done it for x too. It doesn't matter what letter it is. But you're substituting in for a letter that's already solved. Then all you're doing is solving for that letter. So solve for the remaining value. So right here I would distribute or multiply. What is 2 times 2x? 4x, right? And then what's 2 times -1? -2. And so you're just solving it basically like a multi-step equation. Can I combine like terms on this side right here? Is there anything I can combine? Who can raise their hand and tell me, is there anything I can combine, Jalen? What is it? Good, that invisible 1x and 4x. What's 1x plus 4x? 5x. Beautiful. So if we were good at multi-step equations and things like that, this should be easy. Now, how do I get x by itself, Christopher? Before I divide.
Oh, you gotta
add 2 to both sides, right? Add that constant. And so you end up getting 5x equals 10. Then, Christopher, what do? Divide. And you end up getting x equals 2.
What's that a question?
Uh-huh.
So instead of you do this split.
For this one?
Yeah, the top.
So all I did is I rewrote the equation, but they tell me that y equals 2x minus 1. So instead of writing y, I rewrote it of what y equals. Y equals 2x minus 1. Then I just solved like a multi-step equation. Yeah. Sure. So all we did was substitute things in for the variable we're trying to solve. It's not so that, a lot of people stop there, but that's my x coordinate of my solution. So my x coordinate of my solution is 2. Now I need to find my y coordinate. So I take my second equation because y equals 2x minus 1. What is x equal to?
2.
2, right? So x equals 2. So I'm going to replace the x with a 2. Because we just know the x coordinate of this solution, just like you did in the bell ringer right here. We know the x coordinate is 2. And so we're just trying to figure out what's the y coordinate. So what is 2 minus 2, or 2 times 2? 4. And then 4 minus 1? 3. So my y value would be 3. So that right here is my solution. And that's it. So all you're doing is you're solving for a variable. So like you might have to move it around, but you're getting a variable by itself, substituting it in, just like if a mirror was to get substituted in this football game, right? We're substituting something in that's just as good or equal to something else, and then we're solving. Then the next step is I literally take what I got my answer as and plug it in to figure out what the y coordinate is. So this is my final answer, 2, 3. To check to make sure it's right, what do I do with my answer choice? Plug it in. So here's how you don't have to do this every time, but this is how we check our work, especially if maybe on that like test that we took, the interim, maybe that we forgot how to check our work. You literally plug in your x coordinate for x and your y coordinate for y, just like I'm going to do now, and you make sure that they're both true. So I know my x coordinate is 2, so I'm going to plug in the 2 for x, and I'm going to plug in the 3 for y, yeah. And let's make sure that they both work out. So those are those 2 equations. So what is 2 times 3? 6. What's 2 plus 6? Does it equal 8?
Yes.
Yes, so I know that works out. What is 2 times 2?
4.
What's 4 minus 1? 3. So it does work out, right? See how those both make sense? I know that this answer is correct. And so the do now is just like the cheat sheet version if you totally forget how to do this and you're provided answers. So like if you're planning on going to college, this is the one lesson that's 110% going to be under SAT. And so you remember, you've learned so much math, you want to remember, okay, if I forget how to do this, plug it in, but it's easier actually to just solve it. Does everyone have this down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll give you a few minutes. Make sure to glue it into your book if you need to. And we're going to start with some practice examples. So today is pretty like straightforward. We're just going to be practicing. And so the glue sticks right back there. Glue it in. And so this is being recorded, so if you didn't write it down for whatever reason, make sure you do. Because this is like the second to last lesson. We have one more, basically practice and then your assessment. Does anyone need more time with this? I can put it up in a few minutes. I can give you my notes. Okay, so we're going to start with number 3 on your worksheet. So we're going to start with, I'm going to do one of each type of example, but we're going to start with 3. So, Alex, is there a variable already solved by itself? Which one, the top or the bottom one? Top one. So we could see that y, or it doesn't matter which variable it is, we could see a variable is already by itself. So I'm going to circle that in my first color. Right, this is just practice. And so we use substitution. Some of you guys have taken Algebra 1. We use substitution when it's easy to get a variable by itself or a variable is already by itself. Then we take our other equation and we circle it in the other color. So I know I'm going to be solving for each one in that color. So I'm going to rewrite the second equation, but instead of y, what does y equal?
-2.
Beautiful. Minus 6. Equals 4. So don't forget the rest of the equation too. So I'm just writing the equation, but instead of y, they're telling me I'm going to substitute y in with its equal, right? Whatever it's equal to. Then I'm going to distribute, right? So I bring down my 2x. What is 6 times negative 2x? Negative 12x. And 6 times negative 6? Negative 36. So you guys can see why I harped on like multi-set equations so much, why I spent so much time on it, is because we're going to be using it a lot this year. Then I combine my like terms. So I can see that there's 2 x's here. I can see there's 2x and negative 12x. What is 2 plus negative 12? Negative 10x. You can also see the difference between last couple lessons and this lesson, where we have one answer as our solution. Remember, the last 2 lessons we've had multiple answers because it was systems of inequalities. Then I need to get the constant to the other side. So what do I do? Good. Add 36. That's all you had fun. And I get negative 10x equals 40. Then, Ibu, what do I do? Divide by negative 10. And what do you end up getting? Negative 4. Good. And so the signs are really important too, because if we mess up a sign and you plugged it back in, it wouldn't be correct. Because 4 is not the same thing, of course. That's why I sang all those don't drop that negative song and all that, is because it would be the wrong answer. So I know my x coordinate is negative 4. Then I'm going to write over here, but try not to do that so you can kind of do this. I'm going to rewrite my second equation because I want to solve for y. But instead of x, what do we get x equal? In this first one, negative 4. Then I'm going to solve. So I have y equals, what's a negative 2 times negative 4? Positive 8 minus 6. 8 minus 6 is what? 2. So I know my solution is negative 4 comma 2. And so I'm not going to make you sit here and check it every single time. You also, when you check it, you just can plug it into your calculator. You don't need to write it down. But I do want you focusing. There's certain people that I said I do want you focusing on checking your work. Make sure if you remember you're one of those people, do that. So does this make sense how this point, you know how we've been graphing? Instead of getting in both slope-intercept form and sitting there and graphing it, instead of that, they're just giving us the point where they intersect. So the point where the two lines meet is negative 4 comma 2. So it's still the same thing, just a different way. Yeah, just throw that out. So we're going to try one more. It's okay. We're going to try one more. And so we're going to be doing number 6. So number 6 is a little bit different. They're actually both in slope-intercept form. So see number 6 right here, and I'm going to use two different colors so you guys don't get confused. And so see how these are both equal to y? They're both solved for y already?
Yeah.
And so,
It doesn't matter.
yeah, so all you're doing, if they're both equal to the same thing, right? If I write this equation and I write, okay, I'm going to use this one, and I'll do y equals 6x minus 11. And they give me what y equals. What does y equal? Right here. Negative 3x plus 7. And so when it looks like this, all you really have to do, I'm just showing you why you do this. All you have to do is make the two equations equal to each other and solve. So it looks something like this. So when you have both equations equal to the same letter, you just make them both equal to each other. Then we just solve. Remember when we were doing multi-step, we draw our river. And I decide what side I want x on. That's why we have so much on this. I'm going to put x on this side and the number on that side. And so, Fernando P., how would I move 3x over to that side?
You add it.
Add it. And when you do that, you get 7 equals 9x minus 11. Remember this? This was all a couple of units ago. Then, Sidley, how do I get 11 over there? Add it, right? And you end up getting 18 equals 9x. Amir, how do I get x by itself? And what is 18 divided by 9? 2. So I know my x coordinate is 2. And so instead of graphing even every single time, if you have two equations that look like this, make them equal to each other and solve. You don't even need to graph unless they need to graph. Then to get my y coordinate, I plug it in. Doesn't matter if I plug it into the purple one or the green one. Do you see how they're both equal to y? It doesn't matter. If Christopher wants to use the green one and I use the purple one, we would get the same answer. So you can even try it to make sure it works. So if I have y equals negative 3x plus 7, and even try the other one if you wanted to. My x coordinate, I got 2. Yeah, you can plug it in for either one, you would get the same answer. What is negative 6 plus 7? What's negative 6 plus 7? What would it be? Not negative. 1. And so you would end up getting your solution is 2 comma 1. Even if you plugged it in right here, what's 6 times 2? Minus 11? 1. You would get the same answer. So it really doesn't matter which one you use. So that would be my answer.
So that's just checking your work.
To check your work, yeah, you would plug in 2 for both of them and make sure they both work. Yeah. But it doesn't matter which one I plug it back into. They'd be the same answer. So when you have two equations equal to y, you just make them equal to each other. All right, last one I'm going to go over with you before I give you practice time is 7 and 8.
So how do you rate 7? Why is that by itself?
Exactly, there's X.
Oh.
I just wanted to play around with it. So it's on the back now, so now we're on 8. And so all you're doing first, it might be a little different because first you're looking for the equation that's easiest to get a letter by itself. So,
They both look easy.
for number 8.
Yeah.
So
So why you doing put 1x plus 2 and y?
yeah, but which one would be easier to do a quick move to get a variable by itself? The top one, right? So this one I have to move it and divide and do all that.
Wait,
to
does
get-
it matter?
Say me?
It doesn't matter if you do like the second, like the hard.
If you did the harder one, you would have fractions and stuff like that, but you still would get the same answer. It wouldn't be harder, but I would always do the easier route, which is just look for the one that's variables already by itself, and it would be a quick move. And so, Jarrell, how would I get x by itself? Subtract which one? To get x by itself. Which one would I subtract? I want to move the one next to x. Got it. How would I move the guy next to x? What would I have to do to get him to the other side? Don't second guess yourself. What do you think you do? You said it at first. Subtract, right? And so I was just asking subtract what? Subtract 4y on those sides. Because you want to get x by itself. Now, can I combine these? 15 minus 4y? Why not? They're not the same. They don't have the same variable. So I'm just going to rewrite it like negative 15 minus 4y. So now I've got a variable by itself. So it doesn't matter, in substitution, it doesn't matter if it's x or y. Now I'm going to use my second equation. Instead of x, what am I going to plug in for x? What is my x equal to? Negative 15 minus 4y. A lot of people just are putting negative 15 in. Don't do that. You want to put the whole thing of what x equals. So you might want to write the whole equation with the parentheses so you remember to write the rest of it. So instead of x, I know that x here equals negative 15 minus 4y. And so the only difference between the ones we just did and this one is just moving one thing out of the way to get the variable by itself. Then we distribute. So what is negative 2 times negative 15? Positive 30. And then negative 2 times negative 4y, positive 8y, plus 7y equals negative 15. So here I'm solving for y first. Then I know that 8y plus 7y, what's 8 plus y plus 7y? 15y, right? Then to get the constant on the other side, this is just multi-step equations. I would subtract 30 on both sides. And you would get 15y, I'm going to write it down here, equals negative 45. Then to get y by itself, what do? Divide 15. And you end up getting y equals negative 30. And so in my coordinate, I know my y coordinate this time will be negative 30.
So then you put y.
Exactly. So you can use this equation again. And so now I can rewrite it, but instead of y, I'm going to put in negative 30. And you could just write this right in your calculator, or you could sit there and solve. If you were to sit there and solve, you get negative 15 plus 12, which ends up being negative 30. So your solution would be negative 30, negative 30. So substitution is just plugging in, and solving. The next couple you can see, you could choose what you want to do. If you would rather sit and do extra practice with this, you can. If you want to do extra practice like you did on the do now and plug in each value and figure out which one works, you could do that with that too. That's why I made them multiple choice. The check for understanding looks like this. And so here's the first equation. So they want you to find the solution. So find the coordinates for this one right here. And then you can see, I want to make sure you know when they both equal y, how do you figure it out? So you guys will have time to do this, but first I want you to spend like the next 10 minutes and you can try whichever ones you want. And every 2 you get a brain buff. So I'm going to put the answer key back there. So I want you to start with one you don't feel confident with. So that's like the beginning ones, like just starting from these ones right here. Go ahead and do those. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else not have their check for understanding?
Some of yours went MI. I handed yours back. I need to find where it is because I definitely had it. Maybe I put it on the wrong desk.